Joined by my co-host.
Your co-host, Ismael Reyes.
And on today's show, we are very happy to announce that we have returning guest Ismael Rey Lara, who we previously had on the show last year, actually, around this time, through Zoom. But now we have the honor of having him here in person. Thank you so much for being on the show with us today, Ismael. It's great to have you. Just introduce yourself to the audience. And
I'm blessed. I want to say, Mateo, thank y'all for just inviting me, having me here and be a part of the circle, be a part of the energy on the show. My name is Ismael Rey Laraon, III Medrano. I'm from the Mission District of San Francisco, California, and also from the south side of Stockton, California. And I say that because I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of my people. I'm proud to bloom beauty and brilliance from areas in which racist policies are created to prevent us from doing so. And in spite of all that ugliness, we bloom.
That's beautiful. I mean, very well said. I also wanted to just shout out to every South American country who has received independence. I know today is Mexican Independence Day, and both Ismael and I are actually from Mexico, so shout out to all the Mexicans. But Anna Lee is actually from Guatemala, and they had their Independence Day yesterday. Some of you here in Marin might have seen all the cars that were honking and doing like a big car parade basically was going on yesterday, which is awesome to see. Do
you have any shout outs to give?
Oh, yeah, for everybody. I mean, the map divides us sometimes, but we're all one people at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
We all speak the same language.
and even if there's variations of the Spanish and or indigenous languages and dialects, is that I just want to say to everybody that identifies, whether you call yourself Latinx or Chicanx or Chicano, Latino, Afro-Latino, Afro-Latinx, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's all these terms, right? And so I just want to say que siempre hay que ser orgulloso de donde venimos y para dónde vamos a estar. Depende de todo, de lo que está en nuestros corazones.
Do you want to say in English?
If I can remember, yeah. I just want to give a shout out to everybody's independence, and that we need to fight continuously to really truly uphold that meaning of independence for all folks in Latin America.
Yeah, no, totally. And just so everyone's aware, Ismael, we have been playing his music for the past whole year really on Tay Radio. So he is also a musician. He's a rapper. And we're it's so crazy to us to just have you in the studio now, because we've been listening to your music like every single show. So yes, this is Ismael Lara, who has made Pa Adelante, Walking Stars, and his EP is on Spotify. So go check it out. Definitely a great way to celebrate who you are. And just moving on, before we delve into more about your life, Ismael, I wanted to ask actually the both of you, what is your favorite Hispanic dish?
Do you want to go first? Okay. Honestly, I'm not really good with cheese, but I would eat pupusas.
Oh, pupusas is a great choice. Yeah. I mean, what do you like about pupusas so much?
I don't know. It's just like the tortilla and the cheese and the cabbage, that dish.
Yeah, just putting everything on.
Yeah, and the sauce is just good.
Yeah, for those people who might not know, a pupusa is basically kind of like, I've heard it described as the Salvadorian quesadilla. Yeah. But it's basically like, it's very different from a quesadilla, I would say. But it's more like a gordita, which is kind of, I would say the Mexican equivalent to it. But it's basically like a whole like tortilla circle. It's like a tortilla circle with a bunch of meat or cheese or beans. Like you could do a whole bunch of things. Yeah. And usually, like Annalie was saying, it's served with some like sauce and some cabbage, some like mixed cabbage that you just put on top, and it's really, really good. But how about you, Ismael?
You're going to put me in a hot seat. What'd you say? Off the top of my head, I'm probably going to say, because mole. I love mole.
Oh my God.
My wife makes amazing mole.
You took mine. I feel like every Mexican person that I've ever met has always said that mole is their favorite dish. Like I have to agree, it's good. It's like, have you had mole before, Annalie?
I'm vegetarian.
Oh, that's right. Oh, well, you can eat mole with, there's like as an enchilada. So you could put it with like a cheese enchilada and eat it that way.
What is a mole? If you guys can explain to the audience.
So mole is just like it's like a sauce. Yeah, it's a sauce that's made out of using chocolate.
Yeah, it could. Yeah,
it could use chocolate and then like a whole bunch of spices. I don't know the exact origin of where part of Mexico it originated from.
I don't either.
But it's just really good. And I highly recommend just trying it out. Just the sauce by itself is really
I
good.
think my mom has done it like vegetarian way with chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't actually taste like chocolate. Like you can kind of, it's like sweet, but it's also super spicy. And it just goes on like anything. Like you can make whatever with it. But yeah.
There's just different ways to make it, right? Some people like that chocolatey taste, some people don't. And so,
Yeah. All right. Well, those are some great choices. Like I said, mine is definitely mole as well. It's just so good. If you haven't tried mole, you're missing out. You got to try it out. But moving on, Ismael, I wanted to ask you. So, what do you do? What have you learned? So, you're a professor, right? Currently, you're a professor at College of Marin. And are you still at San Francisco State?
San Francisco State, City College of San Francisco, sometimes Merritt as well.
Oh, Merritt College too. Oh, wow. So, okay, great. And could you just describe to us a little more about like your journey becoming a professor? Like what made you want to become a professor?
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a great question. I feel that when I was in high school, I had a lot of low self-esteem, and I just kept to myself. But it was the literature courses and history classes that I enjoyed the most. And I would say that the interest in learning about my culture came from learning about African-American literature and history first.
Oh, wow.
And so some of my heroes have, for a long time, been people like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. And so learning about African-American heroes and the abolitionist movement, I was like, well, you know what? This is amazing. This is dope. So where are the folks that look like me? And it wasn't until community college that I was in the Puente program at San Joaquin Delta College in the early 2000s. And I got to learn about the beginning intro into Chicano studies. And so I was like, for me, I felt empowered through reading, through the literature, through the history, through learning about my culture, to learn about the complexities of my culture, and to embracing my European history, heritage.
Yeah.
Also my indigeneity. And I identify more with my indigeneity. And also in my classes, I do my best to talk about what does independence truly mean? Does everyone have it? And so from that perspective, I'm not saying that all Mexican folk have African heritage, but many people do. Many of us do, right? And so we have to acknowledge that there's racist policies created to prevent specific groups of folks from social mobility.
Could you, so you've mentioned this before, but could you go into a little bit more detail about what these racist policies are, or what you mean exactly by racist policies?
Yeah. And so in my courses, we talk about definitions week one. And so week one, we're like, well, definitions matter because if we don't define, for instance, racism, then we're all going to use this word in a different way with a different meaning, and we're not going to be able to communicate. And so racism, per Dr. Eduardo Bonilla Silva, who's a professor of sociology, I believe he's the chair at the sociology department at Duke University, he defines it as institutionalized and or systemic.
Yeah.
In addition to that, building off of Dr. Kendi's work on his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, he emphasizes that it's racist policies. And so in my class, we break it down into two extreme forms. We have the overt, which is in your face, is visible. Most people tend to say that, for instance, only the KKK is racist, right? Only Burning Cross is racist, or racial slurs.
Yeah.
Then we got the covert racism that's more hidden, It's not easy to see. It's oftentimes disguised, camouflaged, and oftentimes it's in policies. So when I refer to racist policies, it could be something like the Repatriation Act of the 1930s that forced and displaced primarily Mexican American families, even though they were born here in the United States, and sent them back and deported them to Mexico.
Wow.
Another one could be the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, an act that excluded Chinese people for 60 years. And that's why you have a lot of Chinese folk that went to places like Baja and in that area of Mexico down at the borderlands.
That's why that.
And that's why you have a lot of Mexican Chinese people.
Yeah, I've always wondered that because when I was visiting Mexico, I did notice that there was a lot of like Chinese businesses opened up, and I didn't really know exactly the history of how they all got there.
That could be one perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, in addition to your point, what we're highlighting here is that because of the Middle Passage, Atlantic enslavement as an institution, a lot of abducted, kidnapped African folk were forced and taken to Mexico, to the port in Veracruz. And that also leads to Black Mexicans. And then centuries later, two concrete examples that are coming to me as far as racist policies is the Indian Removal Act of 1830 in the United States that forced and displaced Native Americans. And when we talk about specifically like a tribe like the Cherokee, it forced and the realization, the brutality of the Trail of Tears. In the same year, Mexico abolishes the institution of slavery. And a lot of Black folk seek refuge in Mexico because of that. And once again, you get more Black Mexican folk. And so we're really united in a lot of our experiences. I won't say we're the same because I want to be respectful to everyone's autonomy and forms of liberation. But I think that there's beauty in our differences for sure. And that's what I mean by racist policies.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a lot of history, especially with race. And I totally agree with like how like it's not only whiteness that like causes racism. There's like Latinos who also are racist too.
Colorism.
And it's just, yeah, it's a lot of history. And going back to your work at school, how were you able to work in different schools and teach? How is that possible?
I mean, it's possible because like our ancestors, we innovate out of necessity. It's not really a choice of mine. If I could give my younger self some game and wisdom, and there's a difference between those two things, is that I didn't know that, like, for instance, your BA and your MA, in my case, matters. So I have a bachelor's degree in Spanish literature from UC Merced. And then I have a master's degree in Chicano studies. Those two don't really connect or build off of one another. For instance, at COM, I have a history equivalency. So I had to take these meetings and prove that I understand the historical mainstream way of teaching history.
Yeah.
Because I have a master's in what could be under the umbrella of ethnic studies.
Yeah.
But if I would have had a BA in history and then my MA in Chicano studies, I could teach both. So that's the wisdom that I would like to offer folks that want to teach, is that, first of all, I think that if you can, go for the PhD. That just wasn't my destiny. And we could get into that later, but I'm good at where I am today because it's opening up different, like, creator just have a different plan for me. And I'm okay with that. But to answer your question, as an adjunct professor, I started out in East Bay at the Peralta Community Colleges. My first semester was at Berkeley City College. And then I met Dr. Siri Brown at Merritt College, and then Jason Seals. And then from there, I met the great Walter Turner, professor here at College of Marin. And that's how the ball just kind of started rolling in that way. And then I got introduced to the chair of race and resistance, San Francisco State, Jason Ferrer. Shout out to him. Shout out to Dr. Torres at City College. And it was like, as a professor, I'm just trying to do what I love, and get paid to do what I love so I could feed my family. And in the beginning, I didn't know that as an adjunct, your classes are not guaranteed. You get these little slip notes at the beginning of every semester that says your contract is terminated after this semester. Oh. And the first time I read that, I was like disheartened. I felt like, wow, like, am I going to be here or not? And so as far as economics that are real life, not knowing if you're going to have a class because it's going to get cut, because possibly there's not enough students and things of that nature, it's been stressful. So it's not by choice. It's more out of necessity. I would love to be full-time.
Oh, okay. And what's the difference from Chicano and Hispanics, like history?
Oh, man, that's a whole semester right there. Just to give you a quick breakdown, though, is that they have different meanings. For instance, when we talk about Hispanic, it refers to Spanish-speaking people, which excludes like a country like Brazil. And then Latinx is to be more gender inclusive, and that comes from Latino, and that would include a country like Brazil, because and other countries, even on the islands as well. And then you have Chicano, and all of these terms have complexities. There's scholars that are doing great research to pinpoint its origins and accurate meanings. For me, I identify as Chicano. I identify as indigenous. And
can I ask, what is Chicano?
Chicano is a term that was flipped in the 1960s during the Mexican-American Civil Rights Movement, the Chicano movement, to retake back a word that was more of an insult, that meant something like, I'm paraphrasing here, something like, quote unquote, lower class Mexican people.
Yeah.
And building off of that history and creating a subgroup as people of Mexican heritage living in the United States, they utilize the philosophy of self-determination to say, we're going to name ourselves and we're going to go with this term, Chicano.
Oh, so it's like Mexican Americans?
It's primarily made up of Mexican Americans. However, anyone that identifies with the Chicano philosophy and way of life can be a Chicana and Chicano.
Yeah.
For instance, a lot of folks in like Los Angeles, where there's a multitude of different razas and gentes from otros países in Latino America that may not necessarily be Mexican, but maybe they grew up in a Mexican barrio, a Mexican neighborhood, Mexican community. And they identify with that political struggle, and they're immersed in that culture.
Exactly.
So you don't have to be necessarily of Mexican origin to identify as Chicano.
Yeah, it's interesting because I also saw this documentary about some Japanese immigrants who actually identify as Chicanos, and there's actually this like pretty big Chicano culture in Japan, in parts of Japan.
It's huge.
It's it's huge. I was watching the documentary. I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, this is like really cool that like, that like you're saying, like Chicano, it's like a I would almost say it's kind of like a lifestyle too, because it's just so, it welcomes so many different cultures, and it really embraces like who you are, and I really like in LA, like you were saying, like you see the Chicano culture as you walk. Like it's so many like people that embrace and say Chicano and
just to clarify, not every person of Mexican heritage identifies as Chicano. And so once again, when we're talking about what do these terms mean, right? They mean a multitude of things.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could choose to be Chicano or not, and it's not just it doesn't have to just be Mexican Americans, like you're saying. Like it could be whoever you want to be. But I wanted to ask. So going back to about your culture, what makes you proud of your own culture? So I know you said you identify with your indigenous side and also with your Mexican side. Like, how do you balance those cultures? Because I think what some people need to realize is that like your indigenous culture can be different from your Mexican culture, right? Correct?
It could not, right? There's a fusion. When we talk about like the colonial period, approximately like let's say 1521 to 1821, the independence that we're celebrating for Mexican folk today, right? From the Spanish crown, is that a lot of promises were made, and I'll take this moment to clarify it, is that the criollos that led that independence promised the indigenous people, the African people, the Black Mexicans, that this new country, Mexico, would be for them. Oh. That they would be included as well.
Can you explain what's creoles?
Creoles?
Yeah.
Creoles?
So during the colonial period of New Spain, we have the colonization of indigenous people into converting them from their indigenous cultures and lifestyles into pretty much being like Europeans. So they built churches, Catholic churches, on top of indigenous ceremonial sites. They force them to speak Spanish, take their culture, their forms of institution, substitute the corn with wheat and things like that. And so, remind me real quick what the question was.
What is Creole?
And so the Peninsulares, people born in Spain, are at the very top of this racial hierarchy as in the caste system. And below them is the criollos and criollas, people of Spanish heritage now born in the New Spain. And then you have the indigenous folk, and at the bottom of this racial hierarchy, you have African folk. And so when you look at this racial hierarchy in Latin America and its racial formations, it's based on phenotype, how you look, your skin color, and your ancestry. And so pseudoscience is created to say, this is why we justify the institution of enslavement, and some people have to be quote unquote slaves.
I have a question. I know like each culture can be different, and for you, what is one of like expectations as a Latino in your family member? Yeah.
So like in my family, like what is an expectation of me?
Yeah.
Or maybe we could even ask it this way: growing up, how were your role? What was your role in your family growing up?
Okay.
And now, how has that changed with your the family that you've now created, like your own family?
I hear you. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, we taking it deep.
Yeah.
But I'm a storyteller by nature, and my former students know that I often share my stories to center myself first, because it's hard to say, hey, what we're learning, I have replicated or reproduced at some point, and so I'll center myself.
If you're not comfortable.
No, I am just thinking real quick. Okay. So like, for instance, machismo, right? Or patriarchy. So patriarchy is a system designed to put men at the helm and governance of actually like a nation and the family. And so my family was not free of patriarchy, not at all. However, growing up, my pops had multiple jobs. He was a janitor his whole life. He serves on the executive board for the Justice for Janitors campaign at SEIU Local 87, 2 terms. When I was young, he had that job. He was a cook. He cleaned houses with my mom.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other story. But my point is that growing up, me and my 2 sisters, Elizabeth and Perla, shout out to them, we grew up doing the same thing. Like, if they swept, I swept. Everybody had to sweep. Everybody had to clean up after themselves, wash their own dishes, wash their own clothes, clean the toilet, clean the shower, sweep, mop, fold clothes. So when I hear stories, and I know they're true, right, about other folks and their households, in particular, in this type of situation where maybe the young men don't ever have to lift a finger when it comes to what may be called as domestic work, right? Maybe they're with the pops, or we're not working in the backyard or doing something else physical, right?
Yeah.
But I had to do all that as well, and I'm thankful for that. Because I have 3 sons, and it's like, nah, homie, you're gonna wash dishes pretty soon.
Yeah.
Clothes, because we want to be able to build and create a community that's more inclusive and less hurtful to one another.
And what I wanted to add is that I was actually, about a week ago, the Multicultural Center Marin hosted this meeting for different age groups and ethnicities to come together and share their concerns with the community here in San Rafael or in Marin in general. And I got to actually participate with our other host, Santi. And we were in this they put us in different circles, and we were in the circle that was all kind of like the youth. And one thing that was very common, so it was mostly Latinos that we were in that circle. And one thing that was coming up all the time is that they had to grow up so fast. Like, there's a lot of like girls who already at like age 4 or 5, they already have to like be taking care of their little sister or something like that, or they have to like babysit their siblings because their parents are working like overtime or working just all these long hours, and it forces both the brother and a sister to have to grow up like really quickly. And that's how I had to go through it, right? I had to grow up really fast. Like, I was already doing all these different things. And then as you grow up, a lot of people were mentioning that they just don't have free time to like do other things because they already kind of have this schedule that they follow. It's like they start working at a young age already. And I just wanted to add that to what you were saying, that I feel like there's a lot of Latin youth who just grow up and they're already like knowing all these different skills, which is great, but it also it creates like a
lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, exactly.
Yeah.
And having to deal with like landlords that are not fair or like discrimination, like it's tough growing up.
And real quick, right? And how do those landlords get away with, abusing rights and whatnot? It's possibly because of, once again, racist policies that protect them. And the mere fact that most Americans, including Latinos, have to work multiple jobs, I would say that is a form of a racist policy.
I agree.
Wages.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
And growing up, did you learn Spanish at school or at home?
I learned it at home, so I was one of those kids that I didn't grow up speaking like proper Castellano Mexicano, not at all. So I grew up speaking like very like slang Spanish growing up in the household. And my pops was kind of like my mom only speaks Spanish, and so like, in the house we speak in Spanish. When you go outside, you can speak English. And so I grew up learning Spanish first.
And do you do the same thing with your children?
We try to. Shout out to my moms and my suegra, because they're the ones that really hold it down as far as like teaching my sons how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And understanding like, we're Mexican, right? We're Mexican. We're indigenous. And although we don't speak Nahuatl or nothing like that, that's eventually a goal.
That's awesome.
Do you know Nahuatl?
No. It's something that me and my wife have talked about. We've taken a few courses actually at Laney a few years ago, and it's a beautiful language, and it's something that we aspire to attain to learn at one point.
All right, great. Well, I actually want to take a quick song break, and we're actually going to play Ismael's song with Ismael here in the studio, so that's super exciting. So we're going to go ahead and play my favorite song off the album, Pa Adelante. I mean, I just love that song, man. It's just so good. But yeah, we'll be playing this, and we'll be right back shortly.
This society try to crush my spirit, but my chicano so don't fall. I'm 100 with it. Mi gente dice al 100, puro pa' adelante, pa' atrás a más, que ese hueco en vivo ya verás. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante. Vamos, vamos, yeah. So who's the victor? You Roman silver, the 30 coins of Judas. I'm Aztec gold, abundance of wealth that we've never told. I'm the mind alliance, youngest defiance, stolen stars and all the science. Duality of the serpent, don't misinterpret. I'm fine wisdom, age in the temple of the serpent. I'm the flaminess of chorus poems, wisdom that hits the soul. Nobility, we still report to these hard to fight every day. We born to prove victory, not to feign decay. I'm good at Pachá princess, anything on her horse, ready for war. We don't die, we regenerate. Victory, our fate. On a cool breeze, I move with ease. My intellect stays strapped. I embrace my heritage. The brown, white, and the black. I got my mind on my studies, and my studies on my mind. Ready to hit back with facts. Blackjack. So what's the meaning? Historical victory from the beginning.
All right, and we are back. Annalise here, and just going to give a couple announcements.
Yeah, for sure. Kimberly is working as an intern for Marin Office of Equity, and she just wanted to share like a little information of what she's doing right now. And it's the Marin Office of Equity has a participatory budgeting project, which is known as PB. And then PB is a citizen engagement process in which community members decide how to spend a portion of money. She has mentioned this before, and this budget of this year is $2.5 million. So it's a lot of money. And you can like write down like what you wanted, what would be like really nice to have a budget in this community. And it can be just like more music in your school, or let's say like a public park, and just like there's many different ideas that can help like public safety as well. But if you do have an idea and you would like to see how they're going to spend this money, you can DM us or message us on Instagram and Facebook at Tay Radio Marin, or you can comment on the comments on Facebook or Tay Radio Marin, and we'd love to hear your ideas. And that's it for me.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also mention that the Presente program is accepting applications, and they will be closing next week. So if you would like, we're going to put in the comments the contact information for Diango Reyes. If you want to participate in Presente, it is a paid internship.
Yeah, I also want to mention Presente is like a really good program. I've been in it, Kimberly and Santi has been in it. It's just like you learn about your culture and more about indigenous history. So it's really cool if you want to learn more about that.
Yeah, or you could always message us for more information.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to mention that today, at 5 p.m., we are meeting up at the Picante restaurant in Canal, which is on Bellum and Windward Way, to march for justice for Mateo, because we still are demanding justice. This is still an issue that's going on here in Marin. And yeah, if you can make it, that'll be great. I'll be there. I'm not sure, Annalie, if you'll be making it or not, but well, yeah, you'll see me there. But I recommend you, if you got the time and day, come and support.
It's right after the show.
Yeah, right after the show. I think they're gonna meet up at 5, but they're gonna start marching at around 5:30. So you got some leeway. But yeah, did you have any shout outs you wanted to give out real quick,
please.
Ismael?
Thank you.
Go for
So,
it.
real quick, I gotta get into my phone real quick. I want to shout out my beautiful Empress, Jackie Lara Jimenez, for winning the San Mateo District Golden Apple Award for her school, for being a great teacher. She's awesome. And shout out to Edward Montelongo and all the teachers, her colleagues that nominated her for this award. So I wanted to give her a shout out for her.
Wow, congrats to your wife.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And that's also so awesome that both you and your wife are like teachers.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. But moving on, so some of you may have seen the reel that we had made on our Instagram, actually with Ismael Lara, where he talked about the warrior in you philosophy. And you know, that video did a lot did really well. Like we got a lot of great positive comments from that. And for those who might not know, what is the warrior in you?
Yeah, so the warrior in you means that there's such a stigma around and in the mental health and Latino communities that often when a Latino young man or man needs help, they're kind of shying away from that because they're told it's just in their mind, or stop being weak, stop being a punk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that the warrior in you, the way I'm defining it, means that it takes a lot of courage to go first. It takes a lot of courage to talk about it, especially in your family and or community where no one's talking about it and they're possibly going through it as well, whether you might know or not know. And so I was like, you know what? Nah, it takes a lot of courage. It actually takes the warrior in your soul, in your spirit, to say, I need help. I'm not okay. I need to talk to someone because I'm wounded. And if I'm wounded and I'm hurt, more times than not, I'm probably hurting the people I love the most at home and in or my community. And so that's how I came up with that. I was like, you know what? Nah, this is the warrior in you.
And I love that mentality so much because it's destigmatizing mental health. You know, like so many times in Latino families growing up, like we just had to suffer through it. We had to suffer through tough times, and we our ancestors went through so much trauma. I mean, imagine that, like these colonizers coming, taking our land, killing like your friends, killing your like that trauma, it goes into generations and it can lead to all sorts of different like just mental health issues along the line. And it's just so, I love that because we all have that warrior in ourselves. We just need to speak up and just come to terms that mental health is real. It is an issue, and there are many resources for you to go and get help for mental health.
Yeah, with that, like I would also say like how our society is building. There's like a constant pressure of like getting on, like being on the grind, getting your stuff together, and it does create a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of people who gain anxiety and stuff like that. And I sadly heard a news like recently about this girl. I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but her name was Jing Mei, and she actually died from suicide, I believe. She just had a lot of depression and anxiety, and it comes from his boyfriend's post, which is JUCTANGSTER, and she was a first-year residency at UC Davis School of Medicine, and it's just really sad how like medical school, the system, it creates like this pressure of like being perfect and stuff like that. And my condolences to her and her family. But September is actually like National Suicide Awareness or Prevention, I believe. And you can also call 9888 for a hotline. And Ismael also gave a resource for people at College Marin. You can all get like free psychological services if you're a College of Marin student for free, and their phone number is 415-485-9350. I'll say it again, 415-485-9350. And I just wanted to like talk about her situation because that was really sad. This past week I just saw it, and it's just, there's a lot of stuff that is going on, and I feel like that could have been prevented. And it's just not like there's a lot of mental illness or mental health
issues among youth,
right?
For sure. Especially like I said, like growing up in my Latino household, like so I lost my brother when I was 15, 14, and that like put a big toll on my mom. My mom went into this very, very depressive state. And that affected the whole family. At first for me, Grieving is very different for everyone. And for me, I didn't initially feel like sadness or something. I just felt very like confused and very like wow, like death exists, like it's a thing. Everyone has their own perspective on death. But as I started like going through high school, because I just started high school basically around that time, I started learning more that like this is actually taking a toll on me. Like mentally, I'm not able to like focus. Like it took some time to get there, but finally like that emptiness in my heart kind of just took over, and I was like, wow, like I don't. Like at first I didn't know what was wrong with me because I thought I was just, I don't know, something. Because I didn't know anything that much about mental health. I didn't come into terms with mental health all that much because it wasn't talked about in my family. But, seeing my mom cry like every night and then seeing like just her suffering, it screwed me up. And I had to go and get help because I don't know how I would have survived high school if I hadn't gone and got at least some therapy to help me out. And I just have to shout out, like, I am such a huge advocate for mental health because of that, because I know that there's so many different types of traumas in people as well. And it's just, therapy is just such a great resource and like tool to have to really conquer your mental health issues. And it works. It really does work. Therapy does work. It's just about you bringing up that courage, that warrior to just stand up with your ideas and just kind of, go for it.
And sometimes people think that there's only one way of therapy and or it has to be a clinical approach. When in reality, and there's scholars doing great work on this, it's not my original work or anything like that. But what I'm trying to get at is that we even have to decolonize that term therapy, when there's nothing more ancestral to us than actually long talks, platicas, as a form of healing. So
like when you mentioned that, I was like thinking of like drawing, how that can be a therapeutic, or music, or meditating, and presenting. We would meditate before we like went to class, so I felt like that was really helpful. But yeah, like when did you like created this warrior in me? Like
it from the fire, from the abyss, from the lowest point in which I was going through my mental health issues a year ago. And I thought I was going to die. I was having health problems, stomach issues. I have to have a really strict diet in what I eat. And also battling that and dealing with my mental health as far as anxiety and depression at the same time was very tough for me. I had a complete breakdown, non-functional, to the point where I had to remind myself just to breathe. I had my first anxiety attack and I didn't know what was going on. I felt cold. I couldn't stop shaking. My stomach hurt. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And my wife took me to the hospital and they were like, you're okay. You could go now. And I was like, nah, man, I'm not okay. I need help. And I remember the ride home felt like the longest ride ever. And I remember shaking so much that night that I didn't know how I was going to go to sleep. But when I woke up, I was like, okay, it's not going to be easy. But if I could get through that, I could get through the next day. And I just took it day by day. And eventually what helped was the things you were mentioning is painting. I'm not a painter, but I like to paint. I like to paint like where I see myself in life and or attaining my goals, to visualize them.
Love that.
My kids sometimes will get a canvas with me and just start painting colors, and it's not about it being perfect. It's just about, I think that's what it was too. As many times I felt like I was being forced to utilize this mask that wasn't me. And I'm not perfect. And I was like, you know what? I need help, and if I'm going to ever wear a mask again, it's going to be of my choosing and my liking. And I decided to, you know what? Some of the performances that I had the last couple of months, I utilized this mask. Shout out to Tunzi in Northern California, who created a customized mask for me based on Mesoamerican god Quetzalcoatl. And I chose that because I was like, you know what? I'm going to embrace the power of my heritage and reclaim my roots, reclaim my indigeneity, reclaim my forms of healing and who I really am. Since in this society, I'm told that I'm not worth very much or anything at all. I was like, no, but I am. And it's a part of reclaiming that was being okay with, number one, like, I don't need to know everything, right? I'm not perfect. I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay. You know, and just beginning from there. And shout out to folks that are going through it, man. Don't give up. You know, it's difficult. There are services. I did a group therapy session for folks going through it with depression. I did that. I'm getting into the system to get one-on-one therapy now. And in the beginning, I had to take, you know, anxiety pills because it was just that bad. And I had to go to work and nobody knew what I was going through.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started opening up with folks in my family. They're like, oh, me too. I've been going through that for a minute. And I was like, what? How come nobody said nothing? And it's like, how do we help each other?
Yeah.
You know, and then I got off the medication and I've been exercising, meditating, affirmations, painting, and I got a new project in the works out of all this pain.
Yeah, I remember last time you were on the show, you talked about like writing a song for your dad, and I think it was Walking Stars.
Yeah,
is that correct? Was that like a form of therapy for you?
Most definitely it was, because I was going. Once again, I thought I had to be like extra tough, you know, and just be strong for my family, which I do, and I still am, right? But I don't think I gave myself like the ability to really just let it out, you know, as much as I wanted to. There was a moment in the hospital where I cried like I never cried before in my whole life, and I felt like a warm blanket just covered my body for a second, and I knew it was him. And
Wow.
That song came out of pain, and it came out of joy as well. It came out of a realization like, you gave me all these jewels, meaning lessons on how to live life, how to be a man, a good man, and even from his mistakes, you know, not just what he did well. My pops wasn't perfect, but his smile and laughter was. And I think that his sacrifices, and I felt like if he could have just expressed to me how he really felt about me, right? Because me and him never said I love you to each other more than probably twice, 3 times in my whole life.
That's sorry, I just have to add that's kind of like similar to the relationship I have with my dad currently. That makes me think a lot, actually. I didn't realize how many times I've actually told him that I love him. Like I've told my mother plenty of times that I love her, but yeah, that's interesting.
So what are the stigmas, right?
Yeah.
Because family is an institution, right? So what are the stigmas that prevent us from being emotional and affectionate to one another? And so when I wrote that song, I was thinking about, well, how do I grow from this pain? And how do I give myself wings from this pain? And that's what really helped me evolve this philosophy and way of life, an action plan based life of evolving wings. And I was like, well, I got to be the best father and pops and dads I could be for my three sons. And I wrote that, and I ended it with like, you know, don't worry about it. I got this. I'm gonna take care of this.
And like, I think you did like a presentation in an event that Javier attended, right?
Yeah, at College of Marin.
And what did you like presented there?
Yeah, so that was the very first time that I put all this together, as far as like theory, practice, music, scholarship, all into one workshop. I shout out to Anaisa and Luz over at CALM and Psychological Services and Puente program at College of Marin, and they helped me come up with this event based off my song called The Warrior in You. It's going to be a song coming up off my new album called Soul Purpose.
Oh, you guys heard it here first.
New
You guys
music.
heard it here first.
Most likely early next year.
Awesome.
And so we titled it, you know what? The Warrior in You, destigmatizing mental health in the Latino, Latinx culture community.
Yeah, no, it was a wonderful event. I'm so glad that I got to go because there were so many people there too.
There was over 100 people, and it really showed that there's a demand for this type of plática.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful seeing so many people also share their experiences with mental health because there was a point where you just kind of opened the floor for people to talk, and it just felt so intimate. You know, it was a very intimate experience to just be there with all those people and all the feelings being so honest. I don't know. Do you have any more of those events planned in the future?
I've done a more conceptualized duration of that presentation because that one was 2 hours. I've done one for like an hour or something like that, hour and a half maybe.
Oh, wow.
For the Umoja Mental Health Summit a few weeks ago. And so I've been asked to do it again at COM. I've been asked to do it at a few other institutions as well.
Oh, gotcha.
And you said like you're releasing new music, so like when are you planning to release that music?
I would say hopefully early next year. I mean, originally the idea was actually today.
Oh, wow.
The original idea was like, you know what? I'm gonna drop every time there's a cultural event. Like I'm gonna drop every May and every September. And then I was like, you know what? I'd rather just wait and have the best version of that product or cultural reproduction because I feel that it's more than just music. It's about messages and it's about storytelling. And the EP that I put out, Walking Stars, it's going to be very different from that.
Ooh,
it's going to be more personal, more intimate because it's a conceptual album. It's my first LP. It's going to be at least 10 songs, maybe one or two more.
All right.
It's a concept album. The concept is mental health and the warrior in you.
That's really nice.
That's really exciting.
I feel like Walking Stars is very like intimate already.
Oh, that it is. It's just in a different way because like those beats are like boom bap, East Coast, golden era of hip hop, and I love that. And all the beats. Shout out to my homie, my friend, producer, the kid rated R from San Francisco. He's doing all the production. We're recording at his studio, and he has this amazing way to just get different vibes and elements and just really bring my lyrics to life. So we're doing it all hands-on, hands-on everything.
I want to know more. How has the recording process been for you so far with your new album? And like how do you what's your workflow like? Do you just show up and just kind of write some bars, or you already have things written down?
I already have things written out just because like when I was paying for studio time, shout out to Eric Glosser over at High Street Studios. When I was paying for time, I was like, I can't afford to just go in the studio and write there.
Write things there.
So, and being a dad of 3, a father, a husband, a scholar, a professor, oftentimes I wrote Walking Stars holding probably the last 2 baby boys in my arms, literally like they were in my arms and I was writing or typing or just recording myself. That EP, it's only 5 songs. It was supposed to be 7. That took me like a good year to write. This album has been taking me like a good year to write. And so by the time I go to the studio, I already have it on the document. I pull it up on my phone if I haven't already memorized it. And then the magic happens, we're just like trying to make it better and ideas. And it's very organic in that way. It's a beautiful process. I don't feel like a full-time artist, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm also trying to
shuffle so many things with your life.
I
You're a very busy guy.
I got different hats for sure. So when we go in, it's to get to work.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna ask a question, but I feel like you might not be able to answer it.
Go for it.
Because can you give us like a hint? Well, you already gave us it's gonna be mental health, but is it anyway gonna have an appearance of like about your father again, or
It does.
Oh, okay.
It does. And so I got a few songs, you know, that have to do with him. There's this one song that I think folks are just gonna go crazy for.
Okay.
The same way that
We look forward to
people
it.
like Padelante.
Yeah.
The song is called 77.
77.
And it has to do with my dad a lot.
And you said that like you've learned so much life lessons from your father, and I'm just wondering like what you hope you give some life lessons to your sons.
Yeah, I think that just to conceptualize some of those jewels is that we have to believe in ourselves, which has been a hurdle for me for a long time. We have to believe in ourselves. Y tenemos que ser firmes in a sense of once we have belief in ourselves that there is no going back.
Yeah.
And we gotta go para adelante with it. No, we just gotta see it through.
Exactly.
And so I think that and giving palabra, giving your word, that's a very indigenous practice itself. Is like, you know, I'm gonna show up to this radio station at this time and I'm gonna be there, you know. And so if I say that I'm gonna take my sons to practice, I'm gonna take them to practice, you know. And so I think those are some of the jewels.
Will there be any features on the album? Any special appearances from other artists?
Because I like you, I'll give you some features. I haven't told nobody yet, but
I mean, you don't have to say who, but
don't
I just want to confirm if there will be features.
there's gonna be features.
Okay, that's awesome.
There's gonna be a legendary icon, international MC from Mexico City on the album.
Oh.
That's nice.
Well, he's based in the U.S. has for a long time. There's gonna be another hip hop underground legend from Southern California. There's gonna be an MC. She's from the East Coast, Buffalo, New York. There's gonna be some real dope features on the album.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, that's so exciting to hear that you have some features on there.
I got you know, and then I have to build with my team, you know, and I have the kid Rated R, my brother producing the album. He's gonna be on it as well. Rebecca Noel, shout out to her. So we got a whole full album for y'all.
That's so exciting. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. I think I have one more last question. And what are you excited for the next generation of Latino?
I'm glad you asked me that because I was supporting the youth in San Mateo High School earlier today, and they had a great celebration of heritage, of different countries, flags, and traditional songs. And at the very end of it, there was this young man. His name is Angel Zamora Delgadillo. Shout out to him and his mom and dad, his folks that I met today. And he is super talented. He got on the guitar, did his thing, started singing. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was like, yo, you need to go see my good friends over at Tay Radio and get interviewed by them.
Yes.
The world needs to know.
We need to know
you.
about him. Yeah.
And just another reality that gives me so much hope in the youth is y'all, right? Creating this platform, putting in the work, creating this amazing studio, all the behind the scenes stuff that has to be prepped and worked into. So, I mean, I'm living it in the now with y'all.
Thank you, Ismael. And the work that you do, you know, is just so fascinating hearing everything that you've gone through in your life and up, like how you got to the point that you're at right now is really inspiring to youth all over. Like I'm always so inspired whenever you just speak about like how you got to where you're at now. And I just wanted to thank you. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time here, but do you have any last words before we finish the
Follow
show
your
off?
purpose. Figure out your purpose. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about materials. Just figure out what is your purpose. What makes you happy? What do you love to do? And then figure out a way to sustain yourself off of that, what you love to do, which is oftentimes your purpose. My purpose is to be a storyteller and through storytelling to educate.
Awesome. Annalita, do you have anything else?
I just want to say thank you for coming, and it's really nice to see like a role model help bring like destigmatize like mental health because we need a lot more people like you.
But thank you so much, Ismael. We hope to have you on the show again in the future. Maybe when your new album drops, it'll be cool to have you here and have that music played here live. But thank you again for your time, Ismael. That's all from us. But we'll catch you all next week, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Peace.
Bye, guys.